Hey guys, it's Hannah, and today I have a book review for These Shallow Graves by Jennifer Donnelly. I actually read this book on my way and in Colorado because I was there for my sister's gymnastics meet. If you follow me on Instagram, then you know about all of that already, so that's old news for you. But I was in Denver over the weekend plus a few days, and let me just say they have gorgeous bookstores there. If you'd like to see all the bookstores that I went to and just fell in love with, then down below there's a link to my Instagram, and I'm currently posting pictures of all the different bookstores we went to because they have great bookstores. And I got some really gorgeous books at those bookstores in Denver, so get excited for my spring book haul because it is going to be fantastic. Just saying. Get excited. But anyway, back to the book. This review is going to have a spoiler-free section, which will be at the beginning of this video, but then also have a spoiler section. And I will warn you when that's coming up, you don't want to be spoiled. So don't worry if you haven't read the book yet, you can keep watching this video. Just know that at some point I'll be talking more in depth about the book and you will probably want to skedaddle. So I actually heard about this book from Sophie over at Sophie Series. I will leave her channel and the review video she did down below if you want to go check that out, which I highly recommend that you do, because her videos are great. And one of those books where you hear about it, you're kind of like, huh, that sounds like something I'd kind of like. It's not really at the top of my list right now, but it's something that I will probably read eventually if I ever had the time. And then my public library has a digital library, and you can download books onto your Kindle for free for a 2-week period, and then it goes back to the library. It's basically the same thing as physical books, just with ebooks. And so since, plane ride, I can't take like 10 books in my bag, otherwise I won't have any clothes. So I use my Kindle a lot when I take trips. And as I was scrolling through all the young adult books looking to see, what would I want to read, I saw These Shallow Graves. I was like, huh, I've heard about that. I've seen that. That looks interesting. I'll just get it and give it a go and we'll see what I think of it. And what I think of it is that it was perfection. So great. On point. Hallelujah. This book is about a girl named Jo, and she basically has the perfect life. She's rich. She's from a great family, meaning they are high up in the social class system. She's very pretty, and she just has a lot going for her. And one day her father is found dead in his study, and the police say that it was an accident, that he was cleaning a loaded gun and it went off. But Jo knows better and knew that her dad was smart enough not to clean a loaded gun because he was a sportsman, and even the basic idiot knows not to clean a loaded gun. I mean, come on. And her father owns a newspaper, and at that newspaper there is a young reporter named Eddie. And while she's at the office one day giving a gift to one of her father's old colleagues, she overhears Eddie and some of the other reporters talking about her father's death. And Eddie says that her father's death was in fact not an accident. And then Eddie and Jo team up to solve the mystery of her father's murder, and it is just so great. This book was great. Jo was such a great character. She was so stubborn and just, you could really relate to her. Jo is just so bold and courageous, yet she just questions herself all the time, but she knows so much, but she's also so oblivious to the world around her, and it's great because you can really relate to her that way. So this book is a historical fiction. It is actually set in the late 1800s, so basically around the Newsies time period. So if you are a fan of Newsies the musical or the movie, musical is favorite thing ever. So if you are a fan of Newsies or just that time period in general, then you will love this book solely for that reason, because just being thrown into the late 1800s America is so much fun. I love it. I love that time period. And you get to see the struggle Jo has with being a woman and trying to get a job and do her own thing, and the way women were viewed at that time period is just... And also the way women had to act and had to present themselves is so completely different from the way it is today. And it's just so cool to be thrown back into that time period when you're in 2016 and you're going back to the late 1800s. It's just books. I mean, books, right? They are magical. And the way this book just wrapped itself up, and with a standalone, you always worry that you won't get a good ending, and you're always worried that the author will just try to end the book too quickly, and you're left just wanting more with a gaping hole in your chest, like, wait, I am missing something here. But this book did not do that. This book was just so great. She wrapped everything up so nicely. The whole story was, everything was there for a reason. It was plotted out so perfectly. I loved it. And the ending was great because you had your nice closure. It was exactly the kind of thing you want. It was just great. Like, this, can y'all tell I really like this book because I can't even like form coherent sentences because I'm just like, it's just good. You can tell how much I love it just because of that. I give this book a 5 out of 5 stars. It was just highly enjoyable, a great read, kept me interested and engaged the whole time. So if you like historical fiction, if you like mysteries, especially murder mysteries, if you like romance, if you like just like basically the best book couple ever, then you will love this book. You just love it. So do yourself a favor and put it way up on your TBR and read it ASAP because it's just great, guys. It's great. So that is it for the spoiler-free section of this video if you have read the book or don't care to be spoiled. But most likely, if you have read the book, then you may continue on. You have the key to continue. Well, everybody does. But you get what I'm saying. If you haven't read the book, then you should go leave now. Go click the pause button. I know you don't want to because you'll miss seeing my face. I'm sorry. You can go watch some of my past videos to make yourself feel better. But I'm going to spoil you now. If you haven't read the book, then you probably want to leave. I mean, let's be honest. So, bye. I'm going to start this spoiler section off by saying I figured out who the murderer was. It wasn't that hard for me to figure out. And it was kind of like a typical thing, like I was really expecting it. I guessed at the very beginning who it was going to be, but of course, it wasn't definite until a certain point in the book. But that didn't bother me because I don't know, it just makes me feel good. Hey, I figured that out. It makes me feel smart. It doesn't bother me that I was able to figure out what was going to happen. In some books it does if it's like too predictable, but this wasn't too predictable, especially the way she played it out. I had the initial thought of who I thought it was, the uncle. I had the initial thought of who I thought it was, and then she kept adding layers and layers and layers and characters and evil people to the point where I was like, wait, am I okay? Well, maybe it's not who I'm thinking it is. And then later on it's like, okay, well maybe he's doing this through them, and then once he's trying to, admit her into the insane asylum, I'm like, oh, yep. I know who it is. Like I said, that kind of thing doesn't bother me. So I don't know if any of y'all read it and it just really bugged you if you figured out who it was. But for me, it was just kind of like, I don't care. The story was still great. She did it perfectly. It was amazing, especially with the way she kind of set up all these different suspects and you just gotta pick one. I just happened to pick right, which makes me feel happy. And it's the kind of thing I enjoy. I like trying to figure it out, and figuring it out is always a good bonus. Before I go into the next thing, let's take a moment to appreciate the fact that Jo knows when she is holding her breath. There was a line, I don't remember which scene it was in. It might have been when they were stuck in the closet at the, corporation building, I think. I'm not sure though, I don't remember exactly. But there's a line where she says, I let out the breath I was holding, and I'm like, yes. You knew you were holding a breath. It wasn't I let out the breath I didn't know I was holding, because we all know that's kind of a interesting line and everyone's kind of like, really? How do you not know you're holding breath? You're turning blue when you hold your breath, okay? So let's just take a moment to appreciate the fact that Jo knows when she's holding her breath. One thing that did slightly bother me, but not enough to give it a 4 out of 5 stars, it didn't bother me that much, but it did kind of bother me, was when Jo sees Eddie with his sister on his arm, and she's like, who is that girl? What is going on? And I know Jo was kind of really insecure with the relationship, especially since they're from such different sides of the social scale. But it just kind of bothered me how quickly she jumped to the conclusion that, oh, he's seen 2 people at once. He's seen me and her, and who knows who else. And it's just that bothered me. Not enough to give it a 4 out of 5 stars, because the whole thing was just great overall, and totally a 5 out of 5 stars. But it pushed my buttons a little bit. But then again, it also played really well into the story and kind of pushed it along from there. So I just want to acknowledge the scene in the restaurant where he sees her cuts and stuff on her face, and he's like, Jo, tell me the truth, where did you get those? And she tells him, and he's like, I'm gonna kill him, I'm gonna kill him. I'm like, so cute. When a guy threatens to kill somebody for his girl, I love it. I don't know what it is, and it's kind of bad that I like that, but I do. I do. So, future boyfriend, if you are watching this, threaten to kill somebody for no, don't do that. Don't do that. No. And while we're on the topic of that little scene in the restaurant, Oscar, I love him so freaking much. He was, like, he might be my favorite, well, I don't know. They're like all tied for my favorite characters. I'm bad at choosing favorites, we all know that. But Oscar is, he's great. He's great. He's great. Basically any scene with Oscar when he's just like, you know, going off about pus and blood and which way the cuts are, and then he gets up behind her and he imitates it, people are kind of like, what are you doing? He's just great. He's so great. And how flustered he got when Sarah came over. It was great. Faye was also a great character. Not one of my top favorites out of the book, but also a really great character. And the whole element of her and just how she lives compared to how Eddie lives compared to how Joe lives, it's so interesting to see like all the different levels of it, and then being brought down and then being brought up, and it's just, I need to stop saying it's great, but it's great. The ending, like I mentioned earlier, was just great. It was perfect. It was on point. It left the perfect amount of closure, but also left enough open so for you to kind of make a sequel in your mind, which is what I have been doing. Let me just say. So it gives you the closure you want, but it also left it open enough for you to kind of add on yourself to the story. And I loved that. I love that. And you don't think that's possible. Like, you have closure, but it's also open-ended. How does that work? But it does. It does. And she does it flawlessly. I mean, I'm gonna have to look her up and find tons of other books by her because she is just great at writing. Great at it, guys. So I think that's kind of all I have to say on this book. I could talk a long time about it. And if I were more face-to-face with someone who's read it, then you would remind me of something that I'm forgetting and then I could talk more about it. But at the moment, that is all I can think of that I want to say about the book. But yeah, in conclusion, I loved it. So comment below, let me know if you have read this. Well, I'm going to assume if you're still in this part of the video that you have read it. So comment below and tell me what you thought about it. If you liked it, if you loved it like I did, or if you just didn't like it at all. And let me know why you didn't like it at all, because I loved it. What happened? What didn't you like? How did you not like it? I mean, I understand if you don't like it. Your opinion. But seriously, this book was great. So that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see y'all again in another one soon.